Hakadosh Boker Or. I wanted to share with you a beautiful idea by Rav Yaakov Naiman. And he brought it in the name of the Saba Mikelim. Listen to this. It says, Im Behukotai telechu. If you're going to go on my path, what is the concept of halicha, to do shmirah mitzvot? Meaning, you have to walk. Or walk. Im Behukotai telechu. You're going to go. Where are you going? So he comes and he brings a mashal. He says, imagine everybody comes to the table and we sit down at a table. We're all eating and drinking. Right? During the time, there's no difference between them. Everybody's eating, drinking, enjoying. All of a sudden, they get up to go. And one of them is still sitting there. And they're like, why does he continue walking? Why doesn't he, get up and come with us? And then they realize he's crippled. He has no legs. So what does that mean? That means that as long as they were on the table, nobody paid attention because they all look the same. But it's only when they get up to go that you see the blemish. You see that he's not able to go. The exact same thing happens with Avodat Hashem. Some people, they're sitting in the yeshiva and they're learning a few years, and there's no difference between everybody. Everybody's there. But when do you come and you start seeing the differences between the different people? When they get up to go. When they're going in the world, and then you see who has legs and whose legs are cut off. Some people in 1 second, they come and they just lose everything. And then other people, they come and they're very strong, steadfast, that no matter what type of a wind is going to come, it will never blow them away. And that's why the Torah says, Behukotai telechu, you're going to go in the path of the Torah. You guys have to have legs. That no matter what's going to happen, stand strong on the ground in order to make sure that you're not going to be blown away. We know that in the yeshiva of Chachmei Lublin, they had a pasuk. The pasuk said, imagine on the building of the Chachmei Lublin, the yeshiva, that's of Meir Shapiro, the founder, right, of Daf Yomi. And it says, Lechu banim shimuli, yirat Hashem alamedchem. What does that mean? Lechu banim shimuli, yirat Hashem alamedchem. The Rashiva once said, why do we specifically take Lechu banim, go my children, listen to me, yirat Hashem, I'm going to teach you. He says, why do we take this pasuk of Lechu, go? Because when you guys are going out of the Bet HaMidrash and you're going outside, you guys have to show the yirah, the fear that you had when you had in the yeshiva. Meaning, even when you leave, you have to understand that that's where you came from. And you have to see it on your face. So he says, right, it's not just enough that you guys are going to be shetulim vet Hashem, right? That you have to live it. So once happened, they gave a bachur to come and he said, what's so incredible about the yeshiva? So he went and he said, it's very, very simple. Do you know that there's a Mishnah that says, Shelosha dvarim tzarich adam lomar betoch beto, erev Shabbat im hashecha. What does that mean? We read it in Bameh Malikin. There are 3 things that a person has to say, erev Shabbat, when it's becoming nighttime. Isartem, eravtem, alikot aner. Did you take off maaser? Did you come? Did you do the eruv? Light the candles. So they explained, kayom hazeh, nowadays, we are in erev Shabbat im hashecha. Well, we're living nowadays is erev Shabbat im hashecha. We're in the darkness. It's erev Shabbat. We're waiting for the Mashiach. So he says we're lacking the light. He says, and here the Mishnah is telling us, sheyesh lomar isartem, right? Masrim b'churei Yisrael. We have to take the maaser. We have to take the best of them. Eravtem, when you're going to go out of the yeshiva, right? You have to put them amongst Klal Yisrael. Haliku otaner. Come and light the candles, light the Ora Torah in Klal Yisrael. Take away the darkness. And that's why he says, that's why they said, Lechu banim shimuli. Go out and you're going to listen to me. Because we have to actually come and disseminate the Torah. That you have to bring light in this world. That's what we're obligated to do. So therefore, when it says, Behukotai telechu, we have to be amelim b'Torah. What is amelim b'Torah? We have to come, we have to toil in the Torah. Amel, he says, is usually in the yeshiva. Where do you work for the Torah? In the yeshiva. There, it's a good atmosphere. Everyone's enjoying. They're learning. Everything that you want. He's coming and he's making his world. But the Torah is teaching us it's not just enough there. Because when you're a bachur, it's very easy to do that. Your head is it. But even when telechu, when you're going to go out and you're going to go into the world, and now you're not anymore in the yeshiva. Now you have to actually come and you have to realize, 1 second, right? Now I'm not in the same place. And by the way, even though I'm mentioning yeshiva, here this was a shiur to b'nei yeshiva, it applies to every single Jew. You come to synagogue. When you leave the synagogue, it should be noticeable that you came out of the Bet Knesset, right? The way that you do your business, the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you act, the way that it is. Why? Because that's the way of how a Jew acts. right? The way of the person and how a person is supposed to behave. So therefore says Rav Yaakov, that's the reason why every single human being, the human being was created by himself, Yechidi, to realize that all the ma'alot, everything is inside of him. Everything is inside of the human being. And that the person should never, even if he's not going to have any help from anybody else, he could still come and become the greatest person he could achieve. Because it cannot be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and he created a human being without ma'alot. And that's what's written. What does that mean? You realize that it's in your mouth. You realize that it's in your actions, right? You have it. But since a person by nature, right, he comes and he doesn't actually grab everything that he can. So therefore, he wants every single time a friend. He wants somebody else to help him out. But he says, but it's not true. A person has to try that even if he's by himself, he has to go to his maximum potential. So why does it say telechu? Why doesn't it say tasu, do it, fulfill it, right? Tekaimu, tishmiru, watch it. He says it's much easier to be mekayim the mitzvot when you're in your house or in the Beit HaMidrash with all the people, but when you're by yourself, it's much more difficult to fulfill the mitzvot. And therefore it says, Behukotai, telechu, right? You have to go out. And that's what you're supposed to do. So he comes and he says, right? Immediately afterwards, what do we have? After you have the brachot, after the brachot, you're going to have, right? He says, right? He says, after the brachot, you're going to have the other brachot, the other way around. And then you have erechim. What is erechim? You know what erechim is? The value. Why? Because the person wants to give his value to the Beit HaMikdash. So we evaluate, how much are you worth? Right? Parashat, the erechim is immediately after the klalot. Why? Right? Immediately. You have the berachot, you have the not berachot. After the klalot, what do you have? Erechim, the value, and then tmura. Tmura means if you're going to substitute animals, one animal for another animal that you have to bring for a korban. So he says, what are you doing that exactly? The kliyakar, listen to this kliyakar. The kliyakar says, what's the connection between the klalot and parashat erechim? He says, right after the klalot, a person could come and they make a neder during the time of tzara. Meaning, so what is it? And he gives maaser. He comes and he says, listen, you're going to take me out of this, I'm going to give you maaser, I'm going to give you... But lo Yaakov, mikol kol. Yaakov, even afterwards, he still continued his path, right? And that's the way that you're supposed to be. Meaning, some people, when they're in trouble, they'll promise to Hashem, if the second he gets out of the trouble, that's it, back to normal. Yaakov Avinu, even afterwards, he's still continuing on that path. But there's another explanation also. And listen to this. The klalot erechinu tmura. What is the connection between them? It teaches us musar askel. The klalot which are brought down is actually the history, right? The Holocaust. We saw the klalot. We saw it with our own eyes, right? It could make a person have a depression. And he could say, what am I? Am I worth anything? He could come and say, look, all these curses that could happen. What's going on? So he says, Kol Sefer Vayikra, all of the Sefer Vayikra is talking about korbanot, the Bet HaMikdash, Kedusha, Hashrat HaShechina. All these things could cause a person to think, right, Machshavot, I'm worthless, I'm nothing. Therefore, immediately afterwards comes Erechim. Erechim comes to tell you that Am Yisrael, even though you're all surprised, don't think that you're worthless. You guys are so important. Every single human being has an erech. Every single human being has a value, and a big value. If you come and you say your value is going to go to the Beit HaMikdash, look how much value you truly actually have, because the person has all that value. And the same Yisur of Hamara, right, also, is that a person could think, okay, if I would have been born maybe somewhere else, or chaval that I can't be of that, or I can't be somewhere else. Tmura. What is tmura? An animal that is supposed to be in the Beit HaMikdash, you're not allowed to change it for any other animal. And if you do change it for another animal, they're both going to become holy. Why? Because it doesn't change. What does that mean doesn't change? You're not allowed. Don't think that if you would have been born to another family, if you would have been born with different midot, if you would have been born differently, you would have been something different. You are born with everything that you need in order for you to succeed. And that, in essence, is what a person has to do. That Hechal comes and he says, right, the nisayon, the trials that a person has, right, in everything. He says, just like he says with the deepness of every single human being, it's like you have the different soldiers, and he's not asking one to do something that somebody else cannot do. And that's why they came and they said that from the beginning of the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. He says there's not one day that is equal to its friend. And there was never going to be the same day. Why? Because there's never two, just like there's no 2 seconds that are the exact same. You're never gonna have 2 human beings that are the exact same. There's always going to be different. And that's why he comes and he says, right? Shalom from her says, Hakadosh Baruch Hu purposely says of Shim Shalom Hirsch, you were born in the generation where you were supposed to be born, right? He says in the same atmosphere that you were supposed to be born, to the parents that you were supposed to be born, and everything that you were supposed to be born, and you were supposed to meet certain people. He gives them the certain rabbis and the certain teachers that you're supposed to have, and other people that you're supposed to distance yourself. He gives you kochot nefesh, and he puts you in this world. All of these things are for you, the mediums, in order to become the best person to fulfill what you need to do in this world. Every single one of us has a path. A person should never come and say, you know what, if only I would have been something else. Tmura is pasul, you're not allowed to do it. If only a person say, what am I? I'm nothing. Look at all these klalot, look at all the... He says, never. Immediately after the klalot, you have the rechin. Look how valuable you are. And you have tmura. You're not allowed to change, not one animal for another. Don't think that this is a nicer animal. Once you gave it to the Bet HaMikdash, once it's for Hashem, it's for Hashem. There's nothing else. And I think that's an incredible message that we're supposed to we're supposed to teach ourselves. Every Jew is different, but we have to maximize our potential. Don't ever say, if I was only born, whether it's to another family, to other parents, to other siblings, in another environment, in another country, in another generation. No. You were purposely put in this generation with your parents, with your teachers, with your siblings and everything, with your kochot, in order to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu the best way possible. Shabbat Shalom.